Isn't the evidence obvious? We only have to look in the media, at our front doors, or on the world stage, that the idea that we can continue to all accumulate and that there is enough of our resources and enough of our enoughness and an ever-increasing demand for growth for all of us hasn't worked, isn't working and doesn't work. We have to learn how to stop. And in fact, if we really look, the evidence that stopping has come up and jumped us anyway. We've been mugged by stopping, by the necessity of stopping, in our unyielding belief that we can have it all, and we can keep it all, and all of us can have it all. We've really come to the end of that. Now, this might sound like bad news. We might imagine that generation after generation that would follow can have exactly what they want and exactly what they need. And we've come so far with this idea that we don't know how to go with that. We don't know how to hold the tension and sit with the absence of what we want, the sense of entitlement in our youngers and even in our elders is somewhat shocking, I'll be honest. The sense of I have a right to, I deserve, is we're becoming less and less proficient at growing out of that demand for everything that we would like. We have a feeling and we buy into that feeling and we buy into the thought that comes with the feeling, and in the relative sense, we go out and we want and we take and we kick and we scream and we get very upset when we can't have what we think that we need. And we don't know how to differentiate between wants and needs. All our needs are generally always met. If we look at food, clothes and shelter, most of us have access to this even if we don't want them. I say this work as someone who works in charities in the UK, that there are people that have access to those basic needs that don't always want them, and that's fine. They have the autonomy and the capacity to make the choices that what they've got is what they want, even though the larger body of society that believes in this enoughness and this consumption and this constant growth would like them to comply along to the parameters of living that society and our culture deigns to be appropriate for them or for everybody. So this more, this enough, this growth is sucking our capacity to live with paradox, with difference, with the unknown, in liminal space, the space between what was and what will be, to hold the tension and to generally sit with the emptiness, to be okay with not knowing, to sit with the unknown. I feel like we ought to teach our young people at school not knowing, teach them the unknown, the cloud of unknowing that we are, teach them mystery, paradox, waiting, holding the tension. And maybe we'll develop broader sensed elders and wisdom teachers at younger and younger ages. You don't have to be an old person to be an elder. We've only got to look around our hospices and those people that have been given an opportunity to stop, however difficult that is, to embody life where it is, as it is, and to accept life in all its durations and differing durations and time frames, to say, well, we do know what life is, and life has been lived to the full, even if along linear time it seems like a short time, and we suffer because we have expectations that we're all supposed to be here a long time. I already know I've lived a long life. My life spans the entire rainbow, and that doesn't mean it's all been... The rainbow I'm thinking of has some browns and greys and some very drab colours inside of it. But having known those and having known the joyful hues, I'm absolutely confident that in all the stopping and the starting and all the limitations that have come to pass and all the prohibitions and all the walls and all the suffering and all the brokenness and the emptiness and the collapse of the programs for how I thought I would find self-esteem and approval finally, and then I'd show everybody. Every time I've come to a halt, it has simply been the season of winter that came before the spring that followed it. And here I am sitting here today, just for today at least, being able to say that. So let's learn how to stop. Let's look at what we have rather than what we want and what we could have. And let's see if there is an enoughness of resources around us. And maybe even if we can simplify and reduce and find our happiness in the simple, readily available of what we already have and where we already are. I have no plan. I have no hopes for the future. I'm hope-free. I'm not trying to get somewhere. Don't worry about where life is going. I've become sufficiently moved through all of those seasons of that line of inquiry to discover that when I reflect back on life and the experiences, I've had no part in it. The part I think I've played in it has really just been the movement of the thought structure, and that my suffering generally manifests from over-identifying with myself as the owner of those thoughts, that I thought was my thinking, and that thinking is who I am, and somewhat the feelings that came with that I couldn't effectively articulate anyway, not till I hit the wall with ignoring my emotional spectrum or being emotionally inarticulate. But in the reconciliation of that emotional realm, that thinking realm, the spiritual realm, or the wholeness of simply being human, the second half of life programs outside of the first half of life ego programs for accumulation, wealth, esteem, approval, and all those things, came the reconciliation of enoughness and the beauty of simplicity manifest out of that. And if anything, now I'm constantly editing life, reducing possessions, reducing mental activity that is concerned with future events, which is the only place future ever exists, of course, is in the thought stream. We know this by now. So as much as one has been able to thus far, there has been a relationship developing with stopping. And again, globally, if we look at this, we've been forced to stop by this current set of situations that we're in. And that's because there's a sign there that we've been given by the very movement of our ideas that we can all have everything we need if we try hard enough. We've hit the ceiling with that. Again, we've been prohibited in that direction. So we're never going back to that. So what next? Hopefully this has been somewhat of a pointer to one way. We shall see. You choose.